Let me now bring in my colleague Meghna, who's joining us from Rio de Janeiro. She's been tracking all the developments as far as this leg of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Brazil is concerned. Welcome to the show, Meghna, and just tell us, it was a packed day yesterday and very impactful as well. We saw how Donald Trump has reacted to it, but just tell us what's in store on day two.
Obviously, there is going to be a family photo, and then after that, we'll be seeing this session on COP30, environment as well as health. That is going to be important because when we did see that yesterday, there were talks about UNSC reforms, terrorism broadly very intensively covered. We did see, not only in President Lula's intervention, but also Prime Minister Narendra Modi, clearly said that condemning terrorism should not be a matter of convenience, but of principle. So having said all of that, definitely the declaration, we clearly see that there is a mention of how important land degradation, dust storms, plastic pollution, battling all these challenges is, and especially for the countries of the global south, there is a very important need of adequate climate financing, carbon sinks. We are also talking about how these countries will be able to mitigate the challenges that is, that are emerging because of climate change. And not only this, the declaration also says, I would like to read the paragraph 90 here, when it says that the BRICS acknowledges that fossil fuels will still play an important role in the world's energy mix, particularly for emerging markets and developing countries and developing economies, and we recognize the need to promote inclusive energy transitions. So that is also very essential, that how the emerging economies will be able to have a very balanced and smooth energy transition. So that is also something that will be discussed. And when COP30 will also be held in Brazil, it becomes even more important for the BRICS also to discuss on this. And the declaration also clearly says that the BRICS countries support India's that India will be carrying out the BRICS in the COP33 in 2028. So definitely there's a lot on agenda, especially in terms of sustainability, climate change, environment, and obviously the COP30 that is going to take place this year in Brazil.
Okay, Meghna, yes, we're looking forward to that session on environment, COP30 and global health. But going back to that eventful and impactful day one, could you summarize for our viewers what other essential points were raised by other BRICS nations? We've heard what Prime Minister Modi has said, important statements on terrorism, the highlight of his address. But what were the other points raised by Brazilian President and Russian President also?
Well, when we see that the declaration, obviously it's a 30-page declaration over 120 paragraphs encapsulating different areas. There was also talk about the debt servicing of obviously after the COVID, there are a number of countries of the global south facing the debt issue. Besides, obviously, how the new development bank can help the developmental initiatives in the BRICS nations. Besides that, there was also talk about a cross-border payments initiative. Now that initiative is going to help the BRICS nations for trade in their national currencies. So the interoperability will be discussed between the countries, and the governors of the central banks and the higher authorities, officials of the respective nations have been given this task to see that how this can be worked out. So this will help facilitate trade between intra-BRICS trade. So this will help facilitate that. So that is going to be a very important thing, that if it works out well between the nations, that there will be trade in their national currencies. Besides that, what we see is obviously climate change has been talked about, as I said earlier, but artificial intelligence has also been talked about. Responsible use of of AI. There has to be regulations, how AI can be misused, what kind of policy has to be put in place. So this is all what has also been discussed between leaders. So when we actually, and obviously there has been a very strong consensus on the UNSC reforms, how Latin America, Africa, the Caribbean needs a representation at the horseshoe table. It's very important that amongst the BRICS nations, when the BRICS nations have reaffirmed their commitment to multilateralism, peace, and obviously combating terrorism, this is also something that has been unanimously voiced at the BRICS Summit, the UNSC reforms. And clearly, when we actually look at the language, it clearly shows that this is something that now the global south will not have much patience with. So clearly very strong words used specifically in terms of the UNSC reforms, and also in terms of combating terrorism, where we did see that it was a direct message to the neighbors. And we also saw that Amy also said that it is going to be a clear message to the neighbors when
Right.
there was mention about cross-border terrorism, people providing safe haven to terrorists, and also terror financing.
And
So
Meghna,
very important aspects in the declaration, clearly aligning with India's priorities for the BRICS.
All
Yes,
right.
Gautam.
And Meghna, in terms of the start of day two, sort of agenda has been laid, or a challenge has been thrown by Donald Trump, talking about 10% extra tariffs against anti-American policies and those aligning with the BRICS formulation. So what has been the reaction so far? What is the buzz there in Rio itself at the Museum of Modern Arts, which is the venue for the BRICS Summit? Because we've already seen the kind of reactions that have come in from the Kremlin, from South Africa, as well as China, saying that it does not see confrontation, but it feels that it's wrong to use tariffs as an instrument of coercion.
Yes, definitely tariffs were talked about, but we do actually see the kind of reactions that have come from the Kremlin, and also from we'll also be seeing that the leaders did discuss on the economic front yesterday. And I have also what was on the agenda in terms of specifically, when we see what was on the agenda was in terms of loans, obviously in terms of taxation, in terms of how the BRICS, so this is nothing against when we are talking about the BRICS, nothing against the West, but definitely this is something that the BRICS wants to build within itself in terms of trade and economy. So this is something that was clearly talked about in the declaration, but we'll definitely have to see what discussions happened today and what are the reactions that comes out from the leaders.